This is going to be one of those videos where I just ramble on, right? But stick with me because I think you'll get something out of this. So, just for the record, I'm not crazy. There's a lot of ideas and concepts I put across on this channel that not everybody gets. And that's cool because I don't do these videos for just like everybody, because you can't paint the whole car culture with a broad stroke and make everybody happy. So I do these videos for people who are of a similar mindset to myself. And it's not even the mechanical mindset, it's the challenge mindset, right? Well, by default, most people become mechanics or get involved in the hands-on aspect of the car culture, hobby, sport, whatever you want to call it, because they're attracted to the challenge. It's a puzzle, for lack of a better metaphor. We like puzzles, but we need to have a puzzle that has a tangible result. So just sitting down at the table and finding these little pieces and fitting them together, that doesn't cut it. When we're finished solving our mystery, taking on our challenge, we need to have some sort of tangible, result, whatever it happens to be. That's why I do what I do. So look at the car culture, the broad car culture. Go from one extreme to the other. You've got people who are into like exotic supercars. Oh, this compressor is whistling. Hang on, let me. That's better. So you've got people who are like into exotic supercars and things like that. They're not into those cars because they enjoy mechanical challenges. They're into those cars because they do something for their ego or their psyche or their imagination, whatever it happens to be. But it's not the challenge that they're focused on. And it's the same thing with people who are into, like, let's say, brass era cars. Or, oh God, the car culture is so broad. There's so many different aspects to it. And I enjoy and identify with almost all of them, but I have a very specific type of personality that's focused on a very specific type of thing, right? So you've got the gamut. And as I said, as a mechanic, as a gearhead, we get into this because we enjoy those challenges. And we look for the dopamine rush that comes with solving the problem or meeting a goal, meeting a challenge. And we're always looking for that. And you don't realize that you're going through life doing this stuff, that it's like, oh, I got that difficult spark plug out, dopamine rush. You know what I mean? Like, we're hit, right? It's not a rush, it's a hit. But this is what we thrive on. This is what keeps us going. And not everybody in the car culture gets the same thing. So this comes up for two reasons. The first is comments on a video on a project that we're starting now. We're starting to work on. And also something that I did about a month ago, but I'm just going around in the shop right now and I'm cleaning up and I'm finding, things. And I says, oh, wait. This kind of ties to this. I like put all these pieces of a puzzle together. But, okay, so this will explain, I think, what I'm talking about. We talked about the 318 build that we're doing with David Vizard and Andy from Unity Motorsports Garage. This is the block we're going to use. And the goal with this project is to get 1 horsepower per cubic inch using stock parts, reworked and modified stock parts. So a lot of people in the comments, I'm talking to you, Mopars or everything. A lot of people in the comments were like, why don't you build a Magnum? Why don't you build a Stroker? Why don't you build an illuminated disc? Why don't you build, like there's an infinite number of really good possibilities that will create really good engines. There's no shortage. But where's the real challenge in that? Yes, I can take a 340 block, let's say, or I can take this 318, and I can bore it, I can put a stroker crank in it, put really good heads in it, put a roller cam, roll valve train, intake man, there's no limit to what can be done with this thing as a hot rod engine. But it's a bolt together thing, and it's been done before, because people, the aspects of our hobby, the people within our hobby, world, culture, sport, whatever it happens to be, that are only after numbers, are only after horsepower. Well, that's how they see it. But when you're looking at the challenge aspect of it, like what can I do with this? And you're looking for those dopamine rushes or dopamine hits that come with those aha moments. Oh, look, I found this I can tweak. Oh, I can turn this down. I can modify this. It's those series of rushes that fill that need that we have. So it's like, yeah, I totally get the big horsepower, big number thing. I understand it. A part of me that really appeals to. But there's no real challenge there. I don't have to sit up at night and try to think of a new way to do something. See, I don't get that puzzle. If you're just ordering the pieces and it's formulaic and you know that, well, this many cubic inches, the heads are going to flow this much, it's going to take this intake manifold, this ignition, blah, 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 blah. It's kind of formulaic. There's really nothing to think about except, well, okay, I got to just go pay for this stuff and then bolt it together. But I do get it because part of me likes that. And occasionally I do something like that. But that doesn't really motivate me. The thing that motivates me is challenges. And those challenges don't always have to do with engines. It has to do with the overall car. So what I'll do is when I'm working on a car, I'm working on a project, I find micro challenges. In fact, I'll tell you what, honestly, everything that I build these days is an old guy who's been down the block and did this, and did that, and did the other thing. And now it's like, now I'm looking for those things that I find personally satisfying. And what I find personally satisfying is getting started on a build, getting started on a project, and then finding all of those micro projects within that project. And each one of those micro projects or each one of those goals within the bigger project is where I get my dopamine hits. And that keeps me happy and it keeps me motivated and it keeps me satisfied and always trying to move forward. These things may not be obvious to other people and it may not be apparent, but generally speaking, I'm going to say that a very big portion of this channel's audience identifies with that. You get it. Even though you may not have identified it tangibly yourself, now that I'm saying it, you're saying, oh, he's right. I felt really good when I completed this task. Well, building a car or taking on a project is a series of hundreds, if not thousands of tasks. And if you focus on each of those tasks and you make it a challenge, each one of those things becomes satisfying. And then the end result of the car, what the car actually is at the end, is kind of almost anticlimactic because along the way you got all of your hits. Does that make any sense? And then there's a lack of imagination. So you talk about, okay, a 318 two-barrel, right? You're going to build a 300 and some horse 318 two-barrel that just looks stock. Where's the fun in that? Where's the good in that? You got to use your imagination. You got to go out there a little bit. Where's the fun in it? I'll tell you where the fun is. You take this engine that looks meek and simple and has the obvious handicap of a little tiny two-barrel carburetor sitting on top of it, and you stick it in something like a 2,700-pound Valiant with like 391, 410 gears, right? You get the idea, okay? A suspension that's going to work, and you keep it dead quiet, and you run the thing through a big diameter single exhaust, and then you go to a Mopar meet, okay? Then you go to a Mopar meet, and you drive around with this stock 318 two-barrel Valiant, and you go call out a Hemi car. Or go, because power to weight, 2,700 pounds, 300 and some odd horsepower, I'll tell you what, you're down there in Hemi Cuda territory, right? Go call out the Hemi cars, go call out the six-pack cars, right? You will hurt so many feelings with this thing, the satisfaction will be off the chain. And then, okay, go one step further. Now, after you've made a couple of passes with this car, and maybe after you dusted a couple of, like legendary muscle cars with it, then you park the car, and I actually did this once for myself, with my Mustang. You park the car in the middle of like the staging lanes or in an open area of the pit, and you open the doors, the trunk, the hood, and you dare people to find the nitrous system, or you bet people to find the nitrous system. I've done this. It's a blast. It's fun. And it's not just a fun from a combative standpoint, but a fun from a gearhead thing, right? It's hard to explain unless you're there. But that's what I'm saying. You got to use your imagination. That's a big part of this whole thing. The other thing that made me think of this, that got me started on this video, was, okay, I'm a weight freak. I've always been a weight freak because in my mind, making horsepower is all, or making power, I should say, is just about overcoming weight. So if you have less weight, then you need less power, or the power that you have becomes more effective. No matter how you look at it, lighter is always better, period, the end. You know, some people like a heavy car with a lot of stuff in it, but I'm into the raw machinery. You know, I don't like, you know, I don't like things that are quiet or smooth. I like things that are crude and in your face. That's me, okay? So I've always been a weight freak. And so this car, Plan Z, which we are getting back on, it's back on a rotation now. This will be the next car we actually take out and do anything with after the race with Bottle Rocket. But now this car, people look at this and they say, look at all these holes. You're crazy. How long did you take you to do those holes? What's the weight there, right? So there's thousands of holes all over this car, okay? Not in any of the strategic locations, like all of the, like the unibody, the crash part of the car that, you know, has got to be safe. And there's no weight taken out of that. That's all regular. But I didn't take any time at all to drill those holes. My goal was to get 10 pounds of metal out of the car. So, okay, after the car was stripped and gutted and everything else, my goal was to get like another 10 pounds out of the nose of the car, but not put fiberglass or anything like that. So I started drilling holes. And what I did was, I did this at my old shop before I started doing YouTube. And I had my office, and there was a big hallway next to the office that led to the actual shop. So I kept this car parked right in that hallway outside my office. And I kept a drill with a step bit plugged in on the car, right? Just laying on the car. So every time I would go to or from the office, I'd grab the step bit and I'd drill a hole. Or I'd drill 2 holes or 3 holes if I was just, you know, okay, easy day, I'm not doing very much today, I'm having my morning coffee. I'll sit there and burp, 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 and throw 10 holes in it. But either way, it didn't really take me any time. It was just like, I just made it part of my daily routine. And I let all of the metal that I drilled, all of the filings, I let them all accumulate on the ground. So when I was done and I swept them all up, I had 11 pounds. I drilled 11 pounds out of the front of the car. I mean, that seemed like a big deal, but it was a micro challenge, and that micro challenge was satisfying to me. That's where I found. See what I'm saying? Fun is where you find it. So, as I was saying, I'm cleaning up the shop, and last month I had the training out of Bottle Rocket. I put a new converter in it, and so every time I work on this car, and for as long as we've had it, every time I work on this car, I try to find something to improve on it without going crazy. So in other words, like, I'm laying under the car doing a converter, and I'll look around while I'm laying under the car, and I'll see there's this little bit extra bit of metal, or I'll see that there's like still some undercoating left, or I'll see that there's an extra bolt that I don't need, or whatever it happens to be. And so I'll go through it. Now, the result of this, so this car right here, all right, understand the goal, right, the overall goal of the car. It's supposed to look stock. It's supposed to be where, not completely stock, but it's supposed to look like a big, heavy, early 70s Dodge sedan, right? And you look at this and you say, well, it's got to be like 3,800 pounds, which is what it was when I started out. It's got to be 3,900 pounds. It's got a little small block in it. It can't go anywhere, right? It's like a psychological thing. So you look at the car and you see it's got all steel. It's got the windows will roll up and down. It's got a bench seat in it, right? So you look at the car and it gives the impression, it gives the illusion that it's a complete, big, heavy car. But this car weighs 800 pounds less than I started with. And it has everything it needs to, let's say, be a street car. If you wanted to drive this car, take the slicks off and put a pair of mufflers on it and drive it anywhere, like anywhere, anytime. It's got to maintain that illusion of being a complete full car with the roll-down windows and, like I said, the bench seat and all that. So you know, it's like a street racer thing. It's a sleeper, for lack of a better term. You know, you take this to a small drag strip where nobody knows the car from YouTube or anything like that. And again, you got to use your imagination because it's well enough known now that you really can't take this car anywhere without people knowing what it is. But that's the spirit of the car. The spirit of the car is you take it to wherever a dragway and you hang out in the pits and you make a couple of really slow passes with the thing, you know, just like sandbagging it, and then you go out and you call somebody with a 12-second G body that has a plate on it, you know, and you walk them, right? And that's where the fun is. That's the spirit and the nature of a car like this. I'm rambling, right? I'm rambling, but I think I'm getting my point across. So as I said, every time I work on the car, I spend time, not much time, finding fat and taking the fat out. It's 800 pounds lighter than its initial weigh-in, but yet it's still a complete car with everything everything it needs to work, turn signals and brake lights and all the other stuff, right? This time around, while I'm under the car, I spent probably about 2 hours, and I said to myself, okay, the last weigh-in on this car was 2,944 pounds. I got to get 5 pounds out of this car. I want this thing under 2940. I want to see a 2930 something number. And there was my new goal. There was my new goal, right? That's where I was going to get my dopamine hits, right? Find that weight, and that's the challenge. That's the puzzle. See, and I dove into it. And, well, here's my highly beat up bathroom scale that I use for everything. And here's 5 pounds. So, I can't even, this is like part of the radiator support that doesn't get used anymore. This is a little bit of front frame rail that was just hanging off of it. Here's, what the hell was this? This is part of an inner fender brace that I had cut previously, trimmed it down, but it still had spot welds. So we got rid of that. Here's another piece of that same assembly. These were like strips of metal that were on the bottom part of the hood. I don't need the inner door, the rear doors to open from the inside. They open from the outside and the windows roll up and down, but I don't need the doors themselves to open from the inside. And so here's the door latch mechanisms. There's one. What's this? This is a piece of the cowl that I cut away that I didn't need. It's just there to support the windshield wipers, which this car doesn't have anymore. We have Rain-X these days. I'm missing a couple of pieces. All right, that's another random piece off the hood, and then this is dirt. This is a pound and a half. Oh, here's the other one. Of dirt, just stuff that was coming along for the ride. I got underneath the car, and I just scraped and pulled and so, and there you go. So, and a couple of cigarette butts mixed in there, but this is just what I swept up off the floor when I was done. So, did I spend? Was it that I was spending hours trying to get the car that much so light that's all? No, I spent some enjoyable time under my car pursuing the challenge and the goal of getting it under that 2,944 pounds. So now it's if I put it back on a scale, I could tell you exactly what it weighs. And that's weighed with exactly 2 gallons of fuel in the cell, right? And 10 pounds. Like when I weighed it, there was the nitrous bottle was 8 pounds, so I threw 2 pounds because I wanted to get maximum weight. So I threw 2 pounds of like wrenches and stuff like that in the trunk of the car. So when I weighed the car, it would be the same as if it had a full nitrous bottle. I know I go that crazy with it, but not because I'm a fanatic, but because these are the challenges that I'm after, and this is where I get my little dopamine hits. I'm not crazy. I've just been at this long enough to understand what motivates me and what I think motivates a lot of you guys. All right, maybe I am crazy. I'll see you tomorrow.